Greetings, viewers! It's me, Death, and happy Halloween! I know it has been too long for some time, so I'll be filling in for my friend here by telling a scary story for this holiday. But be warned, this story is actually pretty old, and hopefully we don't get canceled for traumatizing children. This is the story of the Monster Bride. Once upon a time, there lived a normal, average girl. But unlike any other female, she was short, overweight, lazy, and ugly. And all her life, she's been treated like a fool. All the kids at school made fun of her for being the special kid, like the rest of her friends. Her mother was even more worse than the kids. She would scold and yell at her for calling her dumb, useless, and a waste of her time for not getting her grades up. And every time she cries, her mother would beat her up to get her to stop crying. But even if she's seen as the poor Disney princess, in this story, not even being away from home is safe either. Her babysitter is religious and she's the head priest of her own church. But she has two rotten sons who will make fun of her, even their older sister who didn't care much about her. She felt like her life slowly falling apart piece by piece. She could never stand up for herself because she was too afraid of getting hurt. Her teacher and her friends are the only ones there for her, but no matter how many times they tried to make her feel better, she was plagued with dissatisfaction. So eventually, when turning 20-something years old, she gave up on her future and waiting for her sweet release of death to get out of this cruel world. Until that one fateful day, the news reported about a prince, but not the fairy tale kind of prince. A young man who was exactly about her age, rich, handsome, smart, and a foreign exchange student who will be attending the same college she goes to. For the first time in her life, she had hope. She figured that it was fate that her Prince Charming had appeared into her life so she could live happily ever after. And so that got her the motivation to improve herself. She worked really hard to become the girl any man would want in their lives. She studied hard, starts exercising more, learning to take care of her skin, and getting a stable job that suits her. And soon after a few weeks later, she reached her goal. She was beautiful, thin, bright-skinned, smart, and had money in her pockets. The perfect bachelorette. She was ready to introduce herself at the entrance ceremony. Once there, she sees all the girls fawning over the same man from the news. She thinks they'll be going after him too. But that's not the worst part. She recognized some of her bullies from childhood. Even the babysitter's two sons are here as well. She was worried that it will be the same torture all over again, but she worked too hard to let this go. So with all her courage and strength she has been bottling up for so long, she has to eliminate them without causing suspicion. She will get her revenge for their cruel ways. In order to get rid of her enemies, she has to come up with a plan to eliminate them, one by one. Luckily, she studied hard to come up with a clever plan she hatched. First, she will have to get rid of the alpha sibling, their older sister, who happens to have a boyfriend now. She come up with a devious strategy to make it look like her boyfriend is cheating with her. She sneakily took a few pictures of her boyfriend and used all of her screenshots on Photoshop to make it look like she was cheating on her, and making sure there's no mistakes. And with a kind, friendly, but worried gesture, she handed to the older sister and was devastated. She didn't came to class since then. With the alpha simply gone, she can start getting the two boys expelled. What is the one thing that can get a college student expelled? Easy. Violence. These two boys always love to fight, especially the younger one who is more spoiled than the older. So while the young one left his locker, she opened it and took all of his favorite things and put them in the older brother's locker to make it look like he was stealing his. But it wasn't enough. She remembered back at her babysitter's home, they have a PlayStation at their house. She waited until nighttime to get their most prized possession. But she stopped and had a second thought. Why try stealing their game console when she could just get rid of their whole house? Then in the next morning, the news showed their house burned down and destroyed. Luckily, no one was hurt, but all their money and possessions are all inside the house, so they're now homeless and have to stay in with the neighbors. And the boys are all at each other's throats. And the hallway, everyone all stand and watch as the two brothers blamed each other, not knowing who was the one responsible. Then without thinking, the older brother punched his little brother so hard His head made an impact on the lockers, causing his whole face to spill. All the students screamed and called an ambulance on the display of domestic violence. At first, she was worried, but deep down inside, she was happy. The second year came. The younger brother was declared to be in a coma, and the older brother was sent to jail for his violent behavior. And their mother can do is pray for their salvation. Not that it'll be any useful, she thought in her head. But now that they're out of the way, she can take the chance to talk to the man of her dreams. If she can, if there isn't a huge crowd of girls. But the man slipped his way through the crowd and talked to her instead. They started a conversation and eventually became close. Wasn't before long they became a couple. She was almost there to getting to marriage. Now all she has to do is keep up with her act and eventually he'll... Her mother came. Looks like she has another enemy to get rid of. Her mother acted all nice and cocky over the prince as if she was trying to get on his good terms. But she knows her mother's true actions. Her mother pretends to be the responsible but kind parent, but deep down inside, she is a Medusa in disguise. Bored and annoyed by her lecture, she was so done with her mother's lies. But at least she didn't say anything bad about her, so she invited him and his family for a family dinner. The girl had another plan. A plan to show her true colors to everyone. 6:30 p.m., him and his parents all arrived at her house. And the whole time at the dinner table, she talked about herself of how she's so hardworking and nice. She was annoyed again. But surprisingly, he was also annoyed as well. Well, that makes two of us, she thought in her head. But this is a good thing too. She just have to show her mother's toxic behavior. She got up from her seat and said, "I'll get some water," and slipped to make it look like an accident. And the water all over on her mother's expensive dress that she bought for this occasion. The girl profusely apologized, and the mother, who was angry on the inside, forgives her for her clumsiness, knowing that there are people watching her. But one thing's for sure, the pitcher of water she spilled wasn't actually water. It was a certain clear liquid chemical that burns off clothes, but also hurtful to the human skin. The mother screamed in pain. The girl acted worried, tried to help, but bringing a long damp towel, but the mom pushed her away out of anger and snapped at her, shouting, cussing, and kept on shouting, you did this, multiple times. His parents are disgusted and terrified of the girl's mother. They called an ambulance and the police for measures. Her prince came to her with a worried expression and was touched by his chivalry. Her and the mother were put on trial, and she told the truth and nothing but the truth. And she made sure to practice her cover story and excuses to prepare for this moment. So in the end of her trial, her own mother was proven guilty and sentenced to prison for 7 years. As she, her own mom, taken away by the police, she screamed hysterically. Her smile became wider than ever. Then finally, after graduating from college and getting her bachelor's degree, her Prince Charming proposed to her. She was so happy she immediately said yes. 6 months passed and her wedding ceremony was almost perfect for her marriage. She was wearing her wedding dress with a beautiful smile on her rosy-cheeked face. It's happening, her happily ever after. But the moment was ruined when someone knocked on her dressing room door. She told the person to come in, and who did she see? It was the babysitter. Remember that I said that she is the head priest of her own church? Well, she warned her that there is something bad inside her soul. Something demonic. The priestess told her to cancel the wedding immediately and that her condition will become even more worse if she continues to marry him. And once she does, she will help her cleanse the evil that's been growing inside her. The girl didn't listen to her because she didn't believe in this demon possession stuff and that something like this will never happen in real life. But the priestess was very persistent, kept on begging her to stop this wedding. She was worried about her and how she changed herself just to be with a man. She pleaded in the name of God to stop this right now. She even told her that her friends are also worried for her safety. But she didn't listen to any of her nonsense. And instead, she gave out a laugh. A very wicked laugh. You tend to believe that I will be fooled by your lies? I have come so far to give this up now. She then calmly called security to kick the priestess out of here, but she still warns her to stop this wedding as if this will affect her life forever. But she continues to not listen. And finally, the ceremony begins. After they have exchanged their vows, they all presented their rings. And now I present you, husband and wife, the head priest announced. As the two lovely couples about to lean in for a kiss, the sun's bright yellow rays through the stained glass window turned red, and everything went dark. The bride woke up from unconsciousness. She sees herself in an empty church. No, not just empty. An empty room full of torn dead bodies, spilled blood on the seats and the walls, and her Prince Charming on the floor with a headless corpse. The bride, terrified of her husband dead, she took a good look at her hands. They're not black as charcoal and have sharp claws. She looked down to see her dress ripped and dyed in red blood. She looked around to find a mirror, but only to see a gold chalice filled with blood. She took a peek at her reflection and see her whole face black-skinned. All her hair was white, but wavy like some sort of enchantress, and her eyes glowing of crimson red demon eyes. A monster, as punishment to all her evil actions on everyone, leaving her friends behind just so she can be happy. Then after the realization of what she had done, black tears fall through her eyes. She lost everything. Her friends, family, the ones that looked out for her, her true love, but most importantly, her younger self. She fell down to her knees and screamed inside the church, and they say that her scream filled the empty red halls. And that's the end of The Monster Bride, a story of how one girl who will sacrifice everything for love. Thank you for watching.